What's up, guys? We are back with another Marvel Legends review, and we are jumping into the push of current Spider-Man stuff that is starting to hit, and easily one of my most anticipated for this little subline that they're doing. We're taking a look at the Iron Spider. So this, of course, is the comic Iron Spider, and when I see this, I'm instantly taken back to like Civil War and, that very iconic Michael Turner cover in particular with this suit, where Peter has the the upgraded suit with the arms, the Waldos, whatever you want to call them. And I've just really been excited about this one ever since we knew it was coming. There's a lot of new stuff with this figure also. Now, speaking of new packaging in particular, this is probably the first figure that I think this is the first thing I found in store going forward now that is in a closed box. Well, I guess MODOK counts from way back, but that's a different thing because he's unassembled in that box. But this is the first figure that I've gotten in a store that has the new plastic-free packaging, I think. If I'm wrong, don't come at me. But this is pretty interesting. It's very different, obviously. So far, I'm very much okay with it. I'm okay with it until I have a problem because of it, If there's a problem that I couldn't see because the packaging was closed, then we'll talk about it. But until then, I do think it actually looks pretty cool. It's pretty striking, especially the color scheme here. So the Iron Spider, contrasted against that sort of blue hue. You've got some comic book artwork on the side panel, product shot on the other side panel, and then the back of the box gives us another product shot, and then like a little blurb with the accessories that he comes with in terms of those extra hands. So far, pretty happy with this. I think it looks all right. It's definitely eye-catching. It definitely stood out to me when I found it. But time will tell as to whether or not this is a good thing or not. So let's do it. Let's pull them out and take a look. And here we go, out of the package, our Iron Spider. And I'm happy to report that despite this guy coming in a closed package, he seems to be just fine. And it is the right figure. So we're off to a good start there. And I'm actually pretty happy with this figure overall. There is, of course, the issue of, I suppose, the price point on this guy being relatively high for just a single figure with basically no meaningful accessories. But the base figure, just taken at face value, is pretty cool. There is, of course, there's a lot of stuff going on here. We've got a lot of extra stuff that's not just figures. So let's see what this guy can do, see how he moves around. He's still very much par for the course with like most Spider-Man figures. He's very much in line with kind of like, the Sunfire body, but it's not the Sunfire body. This is new because all of the gold patterning is sculpted on the figure, so it's a new body. Of course, he's pinless, but he's also not the same articulation scheme as the retro Spidey, the new body. So it is different. He's a little bit slimmer though, which I think does flow pretty well with how this guy looked in the comics. So familiar territory, but still a bunch of new stuff here. So you've got a head that can look up really, really far. You can look down all the way. You don't really have much tilt, but you've got full rotation. Let's move this guy out of the way. Arms out. Of course, they're going to rotate. We do have a butterfly joint. It's pretty minimal, but it's there. Bicep swivel, double jointed pinless. Really good range there. Then you've got hinges, rotation at the wrist. We've got our ab crunch, so he goes backwards. He goes forwards really, really, really well. You've got your waist twist down there. So again, familiar territory, older style of body, but just new parts. Older style of articulation, I should say. Legs out. They kick forward all the way. They're going to kick backwards slightly. You've got a thigh cut up there. Double jointed pinless. They go really far back. And then we've got a nicely hidden shin swivel down here, and then you've got your rocker. Really good, nothing in the way of the rocker or that hinge. Now, of course, there's other stuff to talk about here. So we've got all of the quote-unquote Waldos. I don't know where that first started being used when it comes to Spider-Man. I know that's what these things would be called in the real world. I just don't remember them actually being called that in the comic books. So it's been a while since I read this particular story. So you've got 3 of the arms, legs, Waldos, whatever you want to call them. So they rotate in their sockets and they're hinged. So they can go in and out like this, so up and down, side to side, left and right, flip them any direction. And then you've got a hinge here, which also has some rotation to it. So it will swivel, so you can swivel that around. And then you've also got hinge at the end, which also has some rotation to it. they are ratcheted too, so they're not going to be like super loose as I like lay them on the ground to do this, but it makes it easier. So you've got 3 pivot points when it comes to these. I will say I kind of wish there was more. You know, there's a lot of extra articulation here, but there are sections where obviously you could have more. Specifically this one right here, I really wish this was hinged. It might have led to instability issues. You know, maybe too many joints is going to make it a little bit floppy over time. But I'd like to see it be a little bit more movable, more posable. But at the same time, I'm not exactly having too many issues with it. And the one thing I was really concerned with was stability. There is no stability problems with this. You can have these things, you know, all shooting out to one side, and he'll get him to be able to stand up, and, you know, like something like that. I mean, all of the weight is on his back and the side, so it's working pretty well. I'm not having too many issues with balance or posing. I just kind of think there's maybe a little bit of room for more joints in those things, but at the same time, I don't want them to be so jointed that they just also fall apart. So maybe this is a happy medium. Visually, though, I am super happy with this figure, and one of my main concerns, well, my only real concern with this figure was the color from body to arms. And when I say arms, I guess I mean the Waldos here. So they are not the same color. Get that right out of the way. These are not the same color as the gold on the suit. This is molded in that sort of swirly metallic-y kind of plastic. It's got a little bit of a shine to it, but it's not the same gold as what's on the body. It's not the same gold as far as these paint details, nor is it the same gold as the bracers and the boot cuffs down here. It is still somewhat shiny, and in the right lighting conditions, like you can see right here, obviously I'm blasting them with pretty bright white lights. They are still pretty shiny, and in most of the pictures I've taken thus far, he looks okay. It's still not exactly the same, and you know, paint never really matches plastic, so I knew it wasn't gonna be, but it's pretty close, and I'm okay with it. What I was really happy to see is just the finish on this figure. Like, there's literally no other way to describe it except that this is like a candy-coated Spider-Man. He is super shiny, and I'm saying that in the best way possible. He is so shiny. This looks like, you know, factory fresh, brand new suit, and everything is, you know, the first time he's worn it. It's never been used, and it's just super bright, super glossy, and I really love the finish on this thing. It's got that very telltale sort of Hasbro metallic plastic to it, but then there's like this overspray almost that's like this really glossy sheen, like he's just covered in, you know, epoxy or something. He is absolutely just shiny. You can see the light just picks up every little bit of detail on him. And of course, it does help to accentuate the musculature of this figure where the light hits him just, well, in any way, shape, or form. And you can see all the sculpt, see all that detail, and then of course you can see, you know, a lot of this new stuff that's here, because again, you know, this suit right here, this, you know, this spider emblem, that's all sculpted on. So it's not something that we've really seen before. It's not just paint applied over the figure. Everything is raised, so it is sort of contained. And it makes those lines look a lot more defined, and we don't really have that sort of fuzzy line work that you see on figures that would just have an emblem painted on the chest, and you'd have that sort of jagged edge to it. This is all, for the most part, very clean and crisp. And the gold paint matches the gold on these bracers and the boots really well. The only thing there's really a difference is the arms, Waldos, legs, whatever you want to call them. Of course, you know, this is a separate piece, so this thing connects to his back. And like I said, it doesn't really pose, no pun intended, much of a stability issue. I think he works really well. Surprisingly, it works really well, despite all of this business just hanging off of them. I mean, it does work really nicely. They are incredibly big. I mean, they're each longer than the figure is tall, so there's a lot of plastic going on here, and it is just affixed to his back. It is in there. I've tried to pull it out, and it didn't really want to come out, so I left it. I didn't want to make it anywhere, so I was just curious to see what it was going to do. Of course, this is the 3 arm version. There is a 4, which, you know, I'm assuming we might see that, you know, when it becomes almost an army builder, there'll be one with another arm at some point for the Scarlet Spiders that they had. So it's a good way to reuse this mold, I suppose, and give us the 4-arm version, which I know a lot of folks are curious to see. But this, of course, is the original, and I think it looks really great. It's an eye-catching figure. It's super glossy again, and just the colors really jump out at you, the gold, the red, and then you've got this relatively understated head sculpt up here, which is just this flat shell with these slightly bulging eyes. But the paint, again, is pretty clean and crisp. And, you know, I know I've kind of harped on it at the beginning that, you know, it's a situation where I will wage war against plastic-free packaging when I have a reason to, but I haven't had a reason to yet. And this, I think, is a pretty good example of that. Like, this figure came out just fine. I think he looks fantastic. The paint is really clean and crisp, and pretty much no real issues to speak of. This is pretty par for the course when it comes to a legend. And then, of course, you know, we do have some accessories to talk about. There's not really much to speak of, but he does come with some thwipping hands. That's it. He doesn't come with anything else. And I know that's going to be maybe a little bit of a sticking point because this guy is a little bit more expensive. I would have loved to have seen some wall crawling hands. That'd be about it, really. I think the big draw for this guy is ultimately these, and, you know, whether you consider them an accessory or not, I don't. There is a lot of extra plastic attached to the back of this figure. So yeah, overall, really happy with this guy. Again, you know, he is more expensive, and I think a $31 price tag for a Marvel Legends figure that's just a figure is maybe a bit of a shock to some. But once you get him in hand, you might change your mind, because this guy is just a lot of fun. I've really not put him down since I got him out of the package. These arms, the legs, the Waldos, whatever you want to call them, are just a lot of fun to mess around with. And the figure, frankly, the figure looks absolutely stunning. The coating, the finish, whatever you want to call it on this suit is just wild. I really, really like the super high-end gloss, the wax that they gave this Spider-Man. I think the Iron Spider suit is cool to begin with. It's always been something I've been really fond of since its introduction, and I'm happy to finally have this guy in figure form. So that's going to do it for this look at the Marvel Legends Iron Spider. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and until next time.